The Super Mario Galaxy movie has been out for a while, quietly spawning a debate of whether it may have been the biggest April Fool's joke ever pulled off on a corporate scale. Many people, including die-hard fans of the first Mario Bros. Movie, have been utterly repulsed by it. This movie will not go down in history as a beloved movie, a necessary sequel, and especially not as a good adaptation of a super beloved game, as its reputation has already been cemented as a bad movie. I could regurgitate what everyone else has been saying about how the movie failed to balance what is essentially too many characters across a 90-minute runtime, reduced narrative fidelity compared to the original Mario movie, and having nerfed Rosalina into being a damsel in distress as a spit in the face to her actual characterization. The Galaxy movie deliberately retconned far more significant Mario canon lore than compared to 2023's rather minimal retcons that are easy to ignore, such as minor details and Donkey Kong's complicated lineage. It was also in this second movie where, despite the Mario Bros. Being in the movie's name, Mario ended up being horribly sidelined in his own movie without a character arc in favor of making Peach, Princess Peach, the main protagonist, which implies that Nintendo's supervision, the Mario must be the main protagonist mandate, was a one-time gig. Many other videos have already covered these grievances. So instead, I want to ask why people cared enough about these flaws to voice their concerns. Why do people have such a negative reaction to the movie? Why do people take issue with Rosalina getting overshadowed by a character from a dormant series? Why do people despise the lack of focus with its narrative in favor of dumping references out the wazoo like they mentioned freaking Pikmin of all things? Why do people just want something more from this movie? To at least match the narrative fidelity of Super Mario Galaxy. And if not even that, at least reimagine the beautiful, breathtaking atmosphere. The reason comes down to the way this movie was marketed. Let's talk expectations. To start, I think it's important to mention that I do not merely subscribe to the popular opinion that the first Mario movie was just okay, just average. Considering that Mario Movie 1 was much more liked when it first released, which only means that the Galaxy movie will only be even more hated as time goes on. Regarding the original 2023 Mario Bros. Movie, I personally found it to be great, and considering it was primarily developed by Illumination, I was pleasantly surprised. I had been a big fan of Mario ever since I was a little kid, so obviously the original movie was going to appeal to me. But of course, a sequel is going to come out at some point, so here it is, skipping straight to adapting Galaxy because that game is practically impervious to missing out on anything, and is naturally one of the best games ever made. Evidently, with the goodwill the first movie generated, you could assume that expectations were rather high, due to Galaxy's extreme narrative fidelity when compared to other games in the series. In fact, even my expectations were sky high for the second movie, and while I wasn't that disappointed by the movie as much as most other people were, except for that Rosalina retcon, that one was pretty stupid, I can understand why these trailers can warp a spectator's perception of the Galaxy movie. Because believe it or not, most of the studio's planning went not into structuring a narrative for the movie itself, but into how the trailers would be shot and composed with the express purpose of luring in unsuspecting spectators. The creators specifically chose to make a movie about Galaxy because, no duh, it's popular. It's still being talked about to this very day, despite being basically 20 years old. We bought tickets long before we knew what an asteroid wreck this movie's execution would turn out to be in some places. The Mario Odyssey references were expected, but advertising them alone wasn't inherently detrimental to the movie if these scenes were woven cleanly into the story. Revealing Yoshi was a brilliant marketing choice because Galaxy 2 starred him as a supporting character, but the way he was revealed seemed to imply that Mario and Luigi did not know who he was initially, and would have to get to know each other better in the same movie. But evidently, in said actual movie, this doesn't manifest. Instead, he just acts as if he's known them since Super Mario World. I guess Dinosaur Land isn't worth making a movie about, so we have an entire story skipped throughout the MCU, the Mario Cinematic Universe. Gee, I wonder why people say Illumination rushing to make Galaxy the second movie in the series was a bad idea. It's a bit too late to go back now. Prequels are typically not as well liked as sequels, so you're taking a risky gambit with that choice. If you ever do take it, that is. As previously mentioned, there is deception at play in the trailers, because in because in the first trailer, Rosalina defeats Megaleg, but her kidnapping is never shown or even implied in the trailer. It isn't until the final trailer where we see Bowser Jr. tagging her with his Mario Wonder Piranha plan. But again, everybody was thinking that Rosalina could easily break free of the tether without much resistance. This is a problem, not because her kidnapping should have been spoiled by a movie that doesn't even prioritize its plot, but because it goes against what we know about Rosa's immense power. Bowser Jr. should be no match for her. That and the deception only showing us Rosalina's use of her powers to triumph over an obstacle led excited spectators to think that Rosa was going to act as a powerful ally. You know, exactly how she was in the game where she first graced the screen. Instead, she ends up appearing less powerful than every single character in the entire movie, which is a slap in the face to anyone who is expecting Nintendo and Illumination to respect her characterization. Mind you, even the cash grab of Galaxy 2 still showed Rosalina as powerful, even though she has practically next to no role in the story. So yeah, the movie didn't have much of an excuse. Audiences loved the movie because nobody really cared about consistency in a series like Mario due to narrative fidelity being one of the least prioritized aspects, both in the games and now the movies are following suit. Speaking of a lack of consistency, one of the strangest marketing choices that Nintendo ever did was spoiling Star Fox's appearance in the movie, right before it came out. Everyone complains that he is a character who is not even from the Mario universe, and he gets much more screen time than Rosalina, despite seemingly being little more than an afterthought, or a cute reference. People speculate that Fox's announcement right before the movie would go live on theaters was an accidental leak by the creators. While I think it was deliberate, it makes sense not to spoil what should have been a great surprise. I stress the move to reveal him right before the movie's launch was to shock the audience and excite them over future prospects. In fact, I actually think the best thing that comes out of this movie, whether or not you hate it, is the fact that it basically confirms a Star Fox game is at the very least in development. I'm not sure if that's actually true, but there's not really much of a doubt about that now, since they actually bothered to feature Star Fox. Otherwise, he would have just been ignored. However, it is also blatantly evident that when you compare this casual reveal of a character who does more than just cameo to a significant portion of a trailer showcasing Rosalina's powers, it's clear that even this leak is intent on misleading people. Anyone who has been paying attention to the trailers would assume that Star Fox is merely making a cameo at the very least, or at most, serving as a supporting character who fights Bowser's airships from the flank and the sidelines with his R-Wing in action sequences. However, in the actual movie he serves as the pilot in place of Rosalina, who did that in Galaxy 1, because the writers needed someone to replace her in order to occupy that missing seat. So the ultimate takeaway is that the trailers and marketing for the Super Mario Galaxy movie was rooted in deception and with an intent to mislead the audience in order to maximize posteriors in theater seats. People who have higher expectations only raise their expectations further upon seeing how the trailers are organized and framed, coupled with the hope that adapting Super Mario Galaxy will be taken with care, will be done tastefully and carefully considered due to the game's well-regarded notoriety. There's a reason online reception to the movie has been slanted towards the negative. Nintendo and Illumination have warped people's perceptions of quality, and when the movie turned out to be popcorn, low attention span fodder with references and cameos being prioritized over everything else, it's almost impossible to blame the detractors. Who knows if this stunt will work again with the third Mario movie? I believe people from this point on will be much more cautious.